All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Let's get started. So we are going to be going through basically how to avoid the profit pits. You know, those properties that suck your money instead of give you money. Yeah, I know it sounds like a kind of a negative topic, but here's the thing. In my investing career now, I've had the blessing and privilege of doing this for 15 years, a little bit more than 1,100 transactions, properties that I actually put my name on a contract and purchased or assigned. A lot of them I rehabbed, actually a good chunk of them I rehabbed. And there's a common thread with some of the ones that cost money. Yeah, I completely admit it. Not every single one of them made me a profit. And if you're working with someone that basically has made a profit 100% of the time, they probably just haven't done enough deals yet. And there's been some and they stick out. Like I remember the addresses so much that I want to share tonight, how to avoid them, how you can just move to profitable deals. Avoid the ones that take your time or take your money. Okay. So I want to go and do this. I want to actually share screen because it's going to be more impactful if I'm able to actually show you this stuff. And by the way, we're live. So like if you got comments or questions as we go and you want to jam, you can drop the comments here, ask your questions, fire your questions away. I want to make sure that by the end of this, we answer the questions, we help you, we get your business moving forward, okay? So feel free to use that chat and we'll jam through it, okay? So cool, what are we gonna learn here? Okay, I'm gonna show you our system for analyzing deals, okay? So that it makes you confident and ready to go. This is what we actually do. Like literally yesterday, the last 24 hours has been awesome. I feel so blessed, amazingly blessed. I got a chance to go and look at a 10-unit project yesterday. Sit down with the seller, sit down with the son, across the table, so to speak. And it wasn't like this intense negotiation, not at all. Instead, it was very friendly. This guy, like, especially after I said a few key things that I'm going to go through with you tonight, after I said a few key things, then all of a sudden he opened up. The pressure left the room completely. We were talking about cars and life and things like that. And the next thing I know, he's saying, hey, after the 10 unit, we can probably work together on the 30 unit over here. And by the way, I want to do this so that my son learns the business and maybe you can teach him how to do that thing that you do. And like, it just opened up this whole big universe for us. And I want to show you that, but we're going to go through tonight through this deal evaluation process. Like the last 24 hours, those have been incredible. Today, I got to help a woman step into real estate for the first time. Like she's been out there in real estate as a realtor and whatnot, but into the investment world. I'm like, I feel so blessed and privileged to be able to do that. We get to help a lot of people with that whole thing in the whole real estate world. But let's get back to the topic at hand. Okay. So what do we need to do? We need to cover 3 big secrets that most people are overlooking in the whole like gathering intel and avoiding the profit pits on properties. Okay. Number 1. And this is going to circle into like how you attract your deals first. Okay. If you're going out there and like trying to scavenge what's on the multiple listing service, the MLS with realtors right now, you're probably going to get drugged towards the worst of the deals right now, unless you're willing to overpay. If you're willing to like way overpay and get deals that aren't going to be profitable out of the gate, then you can probably get, stuff that's not going to cost you an arm and a leg, but you're not going to be profitable out of the gate. You're going to overpay for it. I'm talking about getting deals that are off market. And the way that we do that is we get sellers to come to us, sellers to ask us for our help. That's a key component to it. Okay. Any other marketing outside of that, you get mixed results from. Okay. So the very first myth that I got to teach you with this when you're marketing to get sellers to come to you is that you do not market to the masses. I know those signs that say like we buy houses, or the big billboards that say like we buy, the ugly houses, ugly costas, things like that. The mass marketing, it can do something, but niche marketing works way better. Let me actually break this down, okay? This is Scott. I got a chance to help Scott now. It goes back about 2 years. Scott came to me, said, hey, I want to do this thing that you're doing. But the thing is, I've already got really good leads and you probably can't beat them. They're the best in the world. I'm with this XYZ big franchise company and like they get the best in the world leads. Well, here's what ended up happening. Okay. With Scott, I went in and I said, okay, well, let's put it to the test. Let's actually get some ads out there. Let's get some organic working for you. Let's get the world of social media delivering to you. And then guess what? He comes back and he writes this really nice thing for us. He ends up referring us to a whole bunch of people. And like the list goes on and on, but none of that stuff matters. What matters right now is how this can actually work for you. The first thing though is that we can't do mass marketing. We have to do it more like we did for Scott. You see, Scott was after this little niche in Oklahoma City, this little niche, the specific sellers that he liked to serve. And when we niched him down, instead of going with this big, broad, we buy houses kind of brand, all of a sudden it started to work. Sellers were coming into him, asking him for help. So the same thing is applicable for you, for your business. Like, don't try to do the big mass marketing. That's for like the Fortune 500 companies. And even if you look closely at their ads, they're still doing targeting. They're still calling out who they really want through the imagery, through the videos, through the music. There's a lot of subtle things that go into it. Okay. The truth for this business is that if you always serve your niche, you win. You win. Even if you say, well, Nate, I'm a pre-foreclosure specialist. I'm a pre-foreclosure specialist, but I also buy apartment buildings and I also buy probate properties. I also buy houses that go to auction. I buy all of them. I want to market to all of them. I'm going to say, no, don't market to all of them. You can certainly buy all of them if they land in your lap, but the marketing that works best is niche marketing. Think of it like this. Okay. Imagine you're going to have a party in your backyard. Okay. The party is going to be like you and whoever you invite. If you invite a bunch of 80-year-olds to your party, and then you also invite a bunch of like teenagers to your party, and you try to get everybody to like intermix and start having fun, how do you think that party is going to go down? I can tell you what will happen. The teenagers are not going to like mingling with the seniors at a certain point. If they don't know them, especially if it's their grandparents, maybe, but if they don't know them, they're not going to mingle. And then the seniors are going to be like, what the heck? This is a weird party. And then all of a sudden everyone's going to leave. And the same thing is true with your marketing, especially when we're using social media. Social media is like this platform. It's an online party wherever you go. Where like this stream right here, we'll get comments on it. People will like it. Some people might not like it. But it's its own little unique party going on. And so if I tried to mix a whole bunch of different people here, it just wouldn't gel very well. I specifically called it out when I invited you to come to this. I said, hey, look, we're going to be talking about real estate investing tonight. Here's specifically what we're going to talk about. Our invitation attracted a certain person, you in this case. Okay. So the same thing is true whenever you put out content to the world, especially in real estate. Okay. If you want a certain seller to come to you, you go all in on that niche. You stay there, you stay focused. Don't try to like be everything to everyone. You'll get sidetracked, I promise you. And then you'll become irrelevant. You'll just get buried in the whole world because there's so much out there already. Okay. So that's a very important thing. So serve your niche, serve it really, really well. Okay. Next, I got this one group for buyers right now, literally, where I'm taking buyers from 1,500 miles away from me, 1,500 miles away from me. Every single week, I'm going in there. I'm serving that community online in social media. I'm serving that community, and they're buying properties all the way across the country over here where I am. And they're buying them every single week. Somebody from that little corner of my universe, my little party that I got going on, they buy properties from me over here where I am. Holy cow. Like, number one, God, thank you. Number two, this is amazing. Never in my life have I seen anything like this where people can like connect all on one platform like this. And it's happening right here, right now. This is the new era of real estate investing. And so like, I really want to make it clear for you, like make sure you serve a niche. And that group right there, it is such a niche, such a niche. It is not some big, broad group, not at all. It's this big, big niche. Okay. Number two is this. Okay. I hear people say all the time, well, Nate, hold on. I tried social media once, it didn't work. Or I ran an ad once, it didn't work. I will bet my money, literally, I won't do gambling, but I will bet you a pizza that social media will outperform any other marketing method that's out there. Hands down. How do you know, Nate? You seem so confident in that. I've done almost every other method that's out there. I put my own money where my mouth is. I currently put money into marketing. I always want the best for my business. I am like, I heard this earlier from a friend. He said, the tip of the spear, that's what he sees himself as. And in a lot of ways, the way that we test marketing, we are the tip of the spear for all the people that we help as well. We go out there and we test this stuff. We try this stuff. We figure out what actually works. And then once it works, we share it with our community. And then bam, that's how it works. Okay. So social media, it works way better than the others. But I want to say this. It's not like the other methods don't work at all, because they do. Sort of like how a VHS cassette tape, you can still watch videos on it. Okay. You can still watch videos on a DVD player. You absolutely can. But we all know that there's a faster, smarter, easier way now. You can just stream it right to your TV through the internet, any movie you want, just like that. Bam. Okay. So it's not like the old stuff doesn't work. It's just that there's a better, smarter, faster way. And I'll show you why. I'll show you numbers and all that kind of stuff. But just like, check this out. Cold calling as an example. Like, I don't know who's cold calling. If you're brave and you want to admit you're cold calling right now, feel free. Let me know in the chat. I know that it can work. Okay. Like, I got one client that he does social media with me, and he also does cold calling. And for him to make it work, he has 6 full-time cold callers in Mexico. They're all VAs, and he's calling thousands of people per day, literally thousands per day. And he ends up getting about a deal per month from that. Okay, I get it. That's just how the numbers shake out, and that's what works for him. Holy cow, I'm not like that. Like, number one, I would never want to organize a team to call thousands of people. Number two, I think it's terrible positioning to have to call somebody and beg them for their property. I think right now in this market right now, it's just the bad position for you to be in the begging spot. And then number three, like the little bit that I have cold called in the past, I find that a lot of people say, take me off your list. And it's like crushing. It's crushing to us as entrepreneurs. So I don't want that. I would never steer someone down that path. It's just everybody and their brother can buy those lists. They're public record. I would much rather have sellers coming to me. Okay. Much, much rather. Okay. So this means like all these old methods, like bandit signs, going out with realtors, getting into multiple offer situations, even direct mail, like not so much a fan right now because of the competition that's around it. It's not that it doesn't work, because it does work, but just so much competition. But all these ways, they've become dated, so to speak. And so the truth is that social media outperforms the other methods by a lot. I could even go deeper on this. Like, literally, it's not just that it works better. It's just that it makes your life easier. I mean, think about this. When you go to a restaurant right now, where do you see people's eyes? Where are they looking? Even like husbands and wives at tables, where are they looking? They're not looking at each other, unfortunately. Sometimes they do. They glance up. But a lot of times it's like this. Imagine if I sat here and did this entire message to you without even making eye contact. I'm staring down at my phone. They're down here. They're on their phone. What are they doing? They're playing around on the internet. They're checking emails. They're checking texts. They're checking social media. I don't like it. I don't think it's good for anybody, but I know that I'm not going to change it. So I'm going to go where they are. And once I'm in front of them, it's so much easier to stay in front of them. Digitally, when someone touches one of your ads or they touch one of your posts the right way, you can actually track them and get back in front of them over and over and over again. I can't do that with bandit signs. I can't do that with cold calling. I can't do that with direct mail. No. But with social media, you get this. You get this connection, okay? And then once you've got that connection, you can go deeper. You can keep popping up in front of them over and over and over again. So it just makes it so much easier to do this whole business. And like, if I want to double my results, I don't have to like go put out double the number of signs like the other ways or call double the number of people. Instead, I just click my mouse. I click my mouse a few times and change some settings. And then all of a sudden, boom, I got double just like that. So my time, my most precious asset that I have, is amplified. It's saved. Okay. And then secret number 3, there's this big myth out there that like, well, Nate, everybody knows everybody in my market already. Social media will never work because everyone already knows everyone. And every time I hear that, I cringe a little bit, because I just know deep inside that it's a limiting belief that comes. And I used to think that same thing too. I used to even think like, well, why would an investor want to buy a house from me? Why wouldn't they just go directly to seller? I remember when I had that thought. It was back in 2006. I had that same thought. Wow, did I have an education come to me after that? Like, there is so many investors that want to buy from you. But here's the thing. They want to buy from those that they know, like, and trust. It's kind of like the old business adage, like you do business with those that you know, like, and trust. Let me give you an example. I bought this property at 227 Western Avenue in St. Paul, Minnesota. It's right by W.A. Frost, kind of downtown St. Paul. Not right next to downtown, but just up on the hill by the cathedral, if you know St. Paul. And Kathy, you might even be listening, because Kathy wholesaled this deal to me. So here's the thing. I got that property. Kathy called me. I was in the same group as Kathy, same REI club. Okay. And Kathy calls and says, hey, I got this property. Here's what I'm thinking about. What do you think? I'm like, hey, can I come look at it? She let me in. I signed a contract with her like that day. I'm like, yeah, looks like a good deal. I went home. I talked to my wife. I'm like, hey, here's a really good deal. I think we can renovate this one. I think we'll do really well on it. Otherwise, let's just like sit, we'll think, we'll pray, we'll decide on it. Next day it comes into my mind, you know what? There's one person that really wants a property that he wants to buy a property. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to reach out to him. His name's Chuck. I reach out to him. Chuck happens to go to the same exact REI club. In fact, Kathy sits a couple rows in front of me typically. You know how it's not like assigned seats, but you know how you got to kind of pick your same grouping for seats? Kathy sits a couple rows in front of me. Chuck sits in the row or two behind me. Okay. But I got to know Chuck, and I knew he wanted a property. I give him this property. He says, I love it. I want it. I'll take it. Well, guess what? He ends up buying it for me. I end up making a profit on it. Kathy ends up making a profit on it. We all close. It's like this big happy thing, right? Anyways, I got to thinking to myself, like, why is it we're in the same group together? It's not a huge group. Like, I feel like everyone should know everyone in here. Why is it that Chuck didn't just go do the deal with Kathy? Why did Chuck do the deal with me? You tell me in the chat. Why did Chuck do the deal with me? Why not straight? Why they have me in the middle? I just assigned my contract. I took an assignment of contract and I assigned it to somebody else, and I got paid really well to do it. But why? Why is that possible? Yeah, you got it. You got it. It's because I knew Chuck. He liked me. I knew him from this group. Okay. And so it just goes to complement this idea, like people will do business with those that they know, like, and trust. And so for us, just putting ourselves out there and in this REI club type setting, like that worked. Now, REI clubs, they're not so much a thing, right? I mean, they still exist, don't get me wrong, but the whole pandemic thing kind of really shook them up. And a lot of people, like, they haven't returned to the same numbers that they used to be. Maybe in some states they have, just the states that I've seen. So anyways, these groups have distributed throughout the internet is what I've found, a lot of them. And they're in places just like this where we're connecting right now. And so it's really cool. We can still get that same concept, but on the internet in different places. So it's really, really cool thing. Let me keep going anyways. Okay. The truth for this whole thing is that people will do business with those that they know, like, and trust. Okay. No brainer. You got that one. Cool. Now, for those of you that I haven't had a chance to meet yet, my name is Nate Armstrong, and I'm going to keep this really, really brief. I think most of you have had a chance to meet now. Those of you that are new to us, welcome to our world. I hope that you enjoy. Really brief for me. I painted houses to pay for school. Okay. I was not born into like some tycoon real estate family. I struggled just like most of us to figure this stuff out. Once I got it and started running, then it was game over. That's when, like, I get to do this fun stuff and teach and all that kind of stuff. But like, I started in the same spot that everybody else starts, figuring this stuff out. Most important for me, I'm a man of God, number one. I'm a family man, number two, meaning I'm a husband and a father. And number three is this work stuff. I do not deviate. That is the order for me. And like, that's just life. Okay. So that's me. Okay. If you want to know more about me, then you could Google search it. You could check us out. I started a pretty cool company that took off and made the Inc. 500 called Home Invest 2. Okay. When I first started in this business, though, this is for you. I literally started on knocking doors. I have done all of these marketing methods. I've tried them. I've tested them. I figured out what works. I figured out what doesn't work. And then it led me to where we're at right now, this whole like Inc. 500. And I can tell you that without a doubt, social media is the vehicle that can take people there right now. It just is. It's just where people are at. It's just what happened in the world. Okay. Now, along the path, we want to avoid jumping into these profit pits that I talked about earlier. The profit pits, they go like this. Okay. I'm going to call this intel. I want you to think of yourself as a bit of a detective. When you get an opportunity, you get this new property, you got to become a detective. Even if you're not going to keep the property, even if you're going to give it to so-and-so is on your buyer's list and you're just going to wholesale to them. I want you to be like a detective because so-and-so is going to develop a relationship with you, and that relationship is going to have some trust. Okay. I don't expect you to actually go in and get your inspector's license or your contractor's license or anything like that, but I want you just to put on your thinking cap. Okay. So here's how we do it. Okay. It starts with this. When a seller first calls us, we're gathering intel on that very first phone call. The intel works like this. Hey, why are you selling? Tell me about your situation. I'm not jumping straight into like, hey, what's the address of your house? How much do you want? I'm not doing that. I'm going to be a detective first. Hey, why are you selling? Can you tell me about your situation? Okay. I'm actually going to pull this up for you. This is a dangerous move. I'm giving you my actual script right here, right now. The script that my team uses, talking to sellers, literally making deals happen. We've signed 18 contracts so far this week. No joke. Thank you, God. Like literally, that is a huge week. Even like I'm blown away at what our team's doing, but I'm going to pull this up. You ready? Okay, cool. This is it. Okay. There's two different scripts. Okay. There's one for talking with wholesalers if you want to get deals from wholesalers. And then there's one that's directed more like direct to sellers. I'm going to talk about the direct to seller one because this is an easier game to play than playing on the wholesale side. Okay. So the direct to seller one, I mean, it's literally going like this. That first question that I asked about, hey, can you tell me about your situation or why are you selling? That's literally my first question. I want to get into that. Oh, cool. Can you explain that? Why is that? Can you tell me more? I want to understand the whole context. Okay, that's the first part of gathering intel for me. Then when I'm getting in here and I'm kind of jamming, then I'm going to get into this stuff like, hey, if they're like, well, Nate, you tell me about you, or hey, tell me about your team. What are you guys all about? What do you do? Then I'll go through this part of it. I'll say, hey, you know what? My team and I buy houses in the area. We work with a handful of investors and lenders so that we've got cash available to do deals pretty quick. Most of the time, we listen to understand the situation that's best for you first, and then we'll come up with a win-win solution. So here's what today looks like. I'm going to ask you a handful of questions. I'm going to run comparable sales reports. We call them comps in the industry. I'm going to visit your property, and then at that time, like we can schedule to be on site together, or we can just do like a video tour, either one. But we're literally going through this. Okay, this is how we jam with them. Okay. And then like, well, Nate, what about the other questions and things like that? Well, yeah, like we've got the obvious questions. The obvious questions are bed, bath, garage, square footage, things like that. You know, for those of you that really want like the script, if you type the script in the comments, then I'm going to do my best to have my team get it with you. Okay. To get it to you. Okay. So the script, write that in the comments. And then I will ask my team to connect with whoever comments on this to get them this script. So just type the script in the comments. Okay. So anyways, like we go through this. This is the first part of gathering intel. I want you to be in that habit as well. I'll blow this up a little bit too. I just realized it's kind of small print. I want you to be in this habit too, that don't think of your job as like looking at the property when you physically go look at it. No. It starts with the first phone call. If you want to truly help that seller and serve that seller, you got to understand their situation. You can't like, if you're going to throw out an offer to a seller, it's kind of like going to the doctor and saying, and if the doctor, like if you say, hey, doc, my stomach hurts. And the doctor says, oh yeah, I know what it is. I'm not going to run any tests. I'm not even going to like put my stethoscope on it. I'm not going to listen to anything else. I'm just going to prescribe you this amoxicillin. Here you go. Boom. And the doctor sends you on your way and you say nothing else. That would be probably called malpractice. And it's the same thing for sellers. Like we got to gather all the intel. We got to really understand, like, do they have a mortgage on the house? Does the mortgage have a due on sale clause in it? Well, hey, have they found their new property to live yet? When are they planning to move? Are they downsizing? What's causing the downsize? Like this is the kind of questions I'm talking about because I really want to understand the seller. Once I understand the seller, then I'm in a position like a doctor to actually prescribe a good solution. I've ran all the tests. I've done the diagnostics. Now I can prescribe something to them to actually help them. Okay. So that's kind of the questions and how we flow with that and all that kind of stuff. Next, we talked about that. I've got something that we use when we're on site called the perfect presentation. It's literally, it's a PowerPoint deck kind of turned into a book that we take and we meet every single seller with. It adds a level of professionalism to it, clarity, and it also brings up all of the talking points that we have to talk about before we get to an actual offer on the property. These are the things like, you know, it's like if you're going to marry someone, you have to go on a date first, like get to know one another, build rapport, things like that. That's what the perfect presentation is all about. So I just want to give that framing as I explain this next part. When you're gathering intel from the seller, you want to have your own perfect presentation. You do. You want to have this dating period. You want to have a chance for them to see who you are. You want to have a chance for them to actually like ask the tough questions. Because when it comes to the actual offer and whether they say yes or they say no, a lot of it's going to come down to if you let them actually object to things before you got to the offer. Did you let them talk out loud and ask you the tough questions that were on their minds? And typically for most people, the answer is no. They just kind of go in and guns blazing and they throw a price on the table and they're like, yeah, I'll pay $214. And they think it's like a rap concert, like drop the mic, I'm out. No, it's not like that at all. That seller that I met with yesterday, him and his son for the 10 unit, like it was I'm surprised that we didn't hug at the end. Literally, I'm surprised. Like literally the conversation got so like get to know you feel like that he saw my father-in-law's hat. He had a hat on yesterday that said Billy Graham Foundation. And then he started telling me his stories about when he was a kid. He's like, when I was 6 years old, my dad owned a Holiday Inn, one of those little franchise hotels. My dad owned a Holiday Inn and we got to go to the franchise meeting each year. And Billy Graham came and he was the speaker. And he was telling me this intimate story about like how Billy Graham was so gentle, so nice. And like, we were really just talking like old friends. And that's the way that you want this to feel with the seller. If you want them to open up to you, if you want the possibility of maybe doing a seller finance transaction, or if you want to actually serve them and help them, it's so much better than if you have to go up against them, it's like a negotiation and you're trying to like, no. It's so much better if you can get them to take down the negotiation shield and have a true conversation. When you establish that and you get really good at that, sellers, this is the easiest game in the world for you because it's just service. You're just helping them. Okay. This is part of like gathering intel too. Like I want them to be open book. Yesterday, the seller told me exactly what he paid for the property. He told me exactly what he invested into it. He told me the details of how he negotiated with the bank and bought it out of foreclosure. He told me how he basically had to get rid of some tenants that were there before he got there. Like he told me everything, maybe even too much information that sellers, sometimes wouldn't tell, but he just shared it all because we had rapport. We weren't even negotiating. We were just talking. Okay. The next thing, online intel. So when we're getting into properties, we're a little thorough. Call me over the top, all that kind of stuff, whatever. I don't care. I want to show you physically, like this is a property. We took this one under contract. I'll blow it up so it's a little bigger. And this property, like when we take any property, we're looking at a few different things. I'm going to give you some free resources here. So you'll want to like jot these down or at least pay attention. Okay. The first one, Trulia has this little thing called their crime map. I'm going to click on it right here. Okay. Everyone knows about Trulia.com, but no one knows about their crime map. So you just got to go down a little bit further. Where is it? Right here. You got to go down a little bit further on the page over here to crime. Okay. Once you're on this crime tab, so like, let me physically put my finger where it would need to go. Oh, it won't let me. Anyways, no, not important, but look for the crime map, click on it. And then what I want you to do is I want you to zoom out. Press minus, 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 look up any address in the country that you want, minus, minus, minus. And I just want you to pay attention to the color coding, okay? The color coding works like this. Dark blue means high crime. They do somehow have an API to the police report data, and they populate where the crimes are. And the darker blue an area is, the more crime there is in that area. Now, I'm not trying to steer you at all. I want you to invest where you feel comfortable investing. But for me and my team and the clients that I bring into my deals, I don't do rough areas. Flat out, not worth it to me. Too many headaches. Like I sell properties to people that I care about. I do. I care about them. Even if I didn't care, I still wouldn't sell properties I didn't believe in. I wouldn't. No way. I like going to bed every single night, putting my head on my pillow, feeling good about it. And like, I want that forever. So we pick properties that are not in the dark blue areas. So, okay. What does a dark blue area look like, Nate? I'm going to zoom in a little bit and you'll see it pop up on the screen. This is a dark blue area. I would not go into the middle of this, me personally. Now it's up to you on whether you do that or not. There's some people that they make a killing doing those kind of properties. Not me. I don't even, if a seller calls and says, hey, I'm in this zip code, I say, hey, I'd love to help, but that's just not our thing. I can probably refer you to XYZ Realtor, but we just don't do that area. It's not us. So sorry. And I keep it that simple, okay? Because I know that our time is limited and we can only serve the people that we can serve. And that's just what we do. So for this particular property, it ends up being that it's right in the middle of this giant clear area in the middle. So it's small on your screen. Let me see if I can blow it up for you. Right in the middle of all this, there is this area that's 100% clear. There's no dark blue at all. Okay. That is a good sign. I love it. I'm all in for this kind of area. Okay. Boring, some people might call it, but I don't care. I want no crime. Okay. So that's the first thing that we do. The next thing that we do is we find the property on Google Maps. And then I specifically like to go into Street View. Really cool feature. You've probably seen it, but if you haven't, you click on Street View. And then most importantly, start walking around, walk a half a block away, and turn and look at the properties. Look at them. What kind of condition are they? Is there trash out there? Look at the cars. Do you see any cars with those like big old rims? You know, those big shiny rims? Like, do you see people sitting on the front porches doing stuff they probably shouldn't be doing? Do you see people congregating on the corners doing stuff they shouldn't be doing? That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for evil. If I see evil, I'm going to run. It's just not worth it to me. It's not my kind of area. So that's what I do. I'm going up and down the streets. I'm looking around. I like to also find a busy area around there. So I look for like, it's smaller on the map, but down in the lower left-hand corner where I'm moving my mouse down here, if you see, you can actually drag the person and put them on the map where you want. And I'm going to go for an area that looks a little bit busier. Okay. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit, and then I'm going to drag my little guy to the busiest area I can find. And then, because usually the busy area, like if it's a double lane street, especially, that's where the businesses are. And then I'll walk up and down that street. And I'm going to look at what kind of businesses are around. Are there pawn shops? Are there like cash for paycheck kind of thing, like cash advance stores, things like that? If I find those, then typically that's also a pretty good indicator. Or bars on the window. Are there bars on the windows? When I find those, that's usually a good indicator to me that that's not my kind of area. Now, again, I'm not trying to steer for you. You might love those kind of areas, but for me, like, it's just not my thing. And so that's what I do. I'm screening. I'm looking for evil, and I'm staying away from evil. Okay. So that's that part of it. Okay. The other thing that I always want to do is I want to pull the actual taxes off of the county webpage. I know I'm getting into a little bit of technical stuff with you guys tonight, but I hope that you don't mind. I really want to show you this so that you know what you're doing. Like, look deep at this stuff. So I go in and I start looking at the county tax rolls. I look at their actual numbers, because the numbers that come through some of the third-party sites, they're rarely accurate. Maybe they're accurate half the time, but I'm always worried that they could miss something. And I just don't want to get caught and have to pay something extra at closing that I didn't plan for. So I'm checking the county. This is how to avoid profit pits. These taxes right here, they can sneak up and bite you. If your purchase agreement says that you're going to take over special assessments, I had this property down in Minnesota, in Chaska, Minnesota. Literally on this property, here's what happened to me. Okay, so this Chaska property in Minnesota, I get it under contract. I think I got it for like $75,000. It was a great deal. I bought it from a bank. It was a foreclosure. And I had to sign saying that I would assume any special assessments on the property. Of course, I ask, hey, is there any special assessments? Not that we know of, but it's as is sale, as is sale. Like, okay, cool, no problem. And then I find a buyer. My buyer's going to buy the property for $85,000. He's really excited about it. I sign a contract with him. I get towards closing. 3 days before closing, the title company starts to send the settlement statements. And I look at my numbers over here. I'm buying it for $75,000, but then there's this giant special assessment for $15,000. Like, what the heck? You know, they said that there was none that they knew of. And then I'm like, well, no big deal. I'm just going to call my buyer and make sure that my buyer's aware. And if he wants to do the deal, he'll move forward with the special assessment. Otherwise, like, we're just going to cancel. So I call my buyer and I'm like, hey, buyer, hey, I didn't know that this was coming. Literally, the bank told me that they weren't aware of it, but guess what? It popped up. So We're at the point now where we can either go forward or we can cancel the deal. He's like, well, let me think about it. Calls you back a few hours later and he says, yeah, Nate, we're going to go forward. But I've already spoke with the title company. I've already reviewed the contracts. You're just going to have to take a loss on that special assessment. So you're just going to have to lose money. I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? No. Like, we're either going to cancel it and I'll cancel it with the bank, or you'll have to assume the special assessment. He's like, nope, it's not the way it's going to go. You're just going to have to eat it. And I'm like, no. I'm like, I'm going to look at the contracts more myself. I bring the contracts over to my attorney the next day and I'm like, hey, Brian, help me with this. Like, what's going on here? And he says, well, Nate, you made a mistake. Like, with the bank, you're inheriting the special assessments, but with your buyer signed an agreement saying that you're going to pay special assessments. So you're kind of stuck in the middle. And I'm like, you're kidding me. You're kidding me. Profit pit here. This is a huge profit pit. Don't do this. Don't make this mistake. That's why I'm sharing it with you. Okay. So I end up going back to the buyer and I just level with the guy. The guy's name's Al. I'm like, hey, Al, like, this was an innocent mistake. I hope you realize that. The bank didn't know that there was a special assessment. I didn't know that there was one. I should have gone to the county tax roll and seen that it was coming, but I didn't. I apologize for that. Tell you what, I'll find you a new property that has equitable value for everybody. But this one here, we're just going to have to call it a day and cancel. And he says, no, you're going to have to eat it. So I had to stand my ground and say, Al, man, I really didn't want to have to go this way. But here's the thing, like, I'm not going to take a $15,000 hit. I'm just not going to do that. If you want to dispute it and like go through the procedures of court and all that kind of stuff, you certainly can. But at the end of the day, it's not worth it for you, not worth it for me. I'm telling you right now, I can help you get another property. I can help you get one. He's like, no, but you don't have enough money to cover this. Like, you'll never be able to get it closed on your own. You need me. And I'm like, Al, like, at the end of the day, I'm going to figure it out. And I did. I figured it out. I found the short-term money at this time. This is really early in my career, and I had to go and find a short-term lender for it. Found one. I was all teed up to close the day of closing. So this is over 3 days. We're doing this back and forth stuff. The day of closing, Al then calls and says, okay, tell you what, I'll split it with you. I'm like, can't do it. And then eventually we ended up coming to a spot where I could make around $3,000 if I signed it over, and then he would take it over from that position. So I said, okay, do it. I signed off on it. I gave him the property. I didn't end up having to fund it and close it. I don't want you to have to go through that stress like I did. I don't at all. So I want you to do this intel phase. The other way that you can do this is you can just really lean on your title company and you can say, hey, title company, I need you to do X, Y, and Z. I need you to really dig and make sure that this stuff is covered. And then the other lesson in that whole thing is just have your real estate attorney write the contracts. Don't try to do it yourself. Don't just wing it. On that one, I winged it. Did it myself. Wasn't the right move to make. Okay, let me go back up to the screen so we can keep on moving. Here we go. Should be up now. There we go. Boom. Okay. All right, so that's online intel. We talked about Trulia. We talked about Street View. What about like rent rates? What about like valuation? There's online tools for that stuff. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole right now. But just know, like, we rely on data. So like, I'll ask my property management company. I'll send them an email. I've got a relationship set up with one of the leasing agents. You could do the same thing. Hey, what do you think this one will rent for? Okay, cool. And then I'll get comps sometimes from realtors or brokers. Otherwise, I'll subscribe to tools like PropStream. Like, you can go to PropStream if you want to use that as a tool to like get data. Yeah, great tool. I'm not going to go through it tonight just in the interest of time, but you should have these kind of data and information pulled in for each deal that you're doing. You want to have that, okay? And then the last thing is just the deal evaluator. I won't pull it up here, but during a different section, like, we run numbers through a spreadsheet to see if the numbers make sense for us and for potential buyers. You got to have that. Like, on every deal that you do, you want to run it through some kind of deal evaluator to make sure that it makes sense. You should never just like wing it, so to speak. Okay, cool. The other thing during this intel phase, especially if you're planning to just wholesale the property, you can really lean on your buyers. Your buyers, they're smart individuals. They're smart human beings. And so oftentimes what I'll do is if I send a buyer to a property And if they love it, great. I'll ask them what they love. If they hate it, then I'll say, well, hey, what is it about that you don't like? Tell me about it. Explain that. And then they'll tell me, like, across the street, there's so-and-so, there's, some kind of thrift shop over there, and it's more like a commercial area. Whatever it is, I'm going to gather intel from them too. And just in case they decide not to buy it, then I'll have that intel so I can share it with the next buyer. I'll be proactive with that information. I'll just share it in advance. That way the buyer trusts me more and all that kind of stuff. And then I won't waste time with anybody that doesn't actually want to go for that kind of property. Okay, I want you to meet Sandy. So Sandy, popping up on your screen right now, she's someone that came into my world last year. And at first, she got a little grumpy. Okay, I was actually a little bit worried. I remember on one of the coaching calls with her, she said, this isn't working, not getting deals, words like that. And I'm like, well, what have you done? Tell me that. And we did a quick audit. We figured out where she was missing some stuff. We pointed in the right direction. And then guess what happened? She came alive. She got 3 contracts signed in a week. You can see it right here on your screen, 3 in 1 week. And I share this because sometimes when people, especially those that like Sandy, for her, she's a professional. Okay. She's raised capital for hedge funds. Incredible woman. And sometimes when people come in, they've got like preconceived notions in their mind about like, I already know how to do this. And that can be a dangerous thing, because I see brand new people that come into this whole social media world and they crush it. They get deal after deal. But then someone that's got a lot of experience, they don't get much traction in the beginning until they say, you know what? I'm going to listen. I'm going to throw out the old ideas and I'm going to listen. And then when that happens, people take off. Sandy took off. Sandy is awesome. She's dominating. She's raising capital again, like incredible, incredible woman. But I say that because I want you to be careful. Okay. Next thing is this. When you're gathering intel with sellers, another big piece of this to avoid profit pits, sometimes sellers, they'll get stuck. They'll say like, you know what? My number is my number. I'm only going to sell it for $255. I won't go a penny less. And sometimes, especially newer real estate investors, you'll be like so excited to do a deal, you'll chase it. And I don't want that for anybody. Okay. Instead, what I want you to do is I want you to think differently about that deal. This started for me at age 21. You see, I had my painting business when I was 21 years old, painting houses to pay for college. And I was hauling ladders in basically a small car at the time. And I really needed a truck. My dad happened to have this 1977 Chevrolet pickup truck. And I told my dad, like, hey, you're not using the truck. How about I buy it? He's like, well, maybe. He's like, I don't really want to sell it, but if I sold it, I'd want $2,500. And then like I looked around online and I'm like, Dad, it's not worth $2,500. Best case scenario, it's worth like, $1,600 to $2,000. Best case. He's like, nope, it's my number. Next thing I know, he lists it for sale. He puts a little for sale sign on it. Somebody stops and looks at it. They try to lowball him too. They try to tell him, hey, $1,600, $1,700. Nope, not doing it. Then I started thinking, I'm like, you know what? I really need that truck. I don't have all the money my dad wants for it, but I really need that truck. And if I had that truck, I could go get this really big paint job. There are actually 2 of them, 2 really big paint jobs that I could get that I would make well over $4,000, maybe even $5,000 on these paint jobs. But I need that truck so I can get the big ladders. And so I go back to my dad. I'm like, hey, Dad, I'll give you the money you want for the truck. My dad says, okay, great. I'm like, but I don't have all the money today. You see, I'm going to give you a little bit right now. And then after I do these 2 big paint jobs, then I'll pay you the rest. My dad says, okay, let's write it up. We write up this little agreement. I go out, I get the truck, I get the ladders, I get the paint jobs. The paint jobs immediately pay for the truck right there as soon as the second paint job was done. And now I own the truck outright. Okay. I go back to my dad. He's paid off. Life is good. And some people looked at me. Remember, I had a friend saying, well, dude, you overpaid for the truck. And I'm like, dude, you don't get it. I didn't overpay for the truck. And in this equation, like, think about this. Did I overpay for the truck? I didn't pay for anything. The business paid for the truck. The truck paid the business. The truck was a working tool of the business. Now, I want you to think about this. Like, imagine how many paint jobs. We probably did like 30 or 40 houses every summer as I was a college kid painting houses. How many houses did I get because of that truck? I probably got like another 20 or 30 just that summer after that because of that truck. That truck more than paid for itself. And the same thing is true with some of these sellers that get stuck on their number. If you get a seller that's stuck at 255 and they will not budge, don't try to chase them up the pole with a cash offer. Instead say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'd really like to help you on this thing. The thing is that 255 on the cash side, I can't make my numbers work. However, I can get you 255. Actually, I can get you more than 255 if you're open to taking payments. Are you open to that? Well, what does that mean? Then you explain it, just like my dad did with me. My very first seller finance deal was this truck. Okay. I've since now gone on, I've used the concept. I've got a $500,000 property, a $700,000 property. I got a bunch of smaller, cheaper property. Like, this concept works across the board universally, but you and I, we have to stop, and first, when we're gathering that intel, we have to really understand the seller situation to be able to put that together. Okay, we got to really understand it, and we got to also learn the 17 different ways to buy houses, and we got to learn all kinds of stuff. But yeah, you get my point. Okay, this here property right here, 4729 North 20th Street. I got this one right in the beginning of the whole pandemic. This is the first one that really taught me you got to be able to do this business like the virtual way. Totally virtual. Like, literally, like, I don't leave my house very often. I went to go look at the 10 unit, but most of the properties that we buy every single week, like the 18 contracts that we just signed so far this week, I haven't gone to any of the 18. Zero of them. Nada. Zero. And neither has anyone on my team. Now, we do have different people that will engage to go look at them at a certain point in the process, but we don't have to, because this whole like virtual world that we're going on, we're still gathering intel. We're still avoiding the profit pits, but we're doing it virtually. And this one, the way that it went is it works like this. And this is where we figured out the framework, is that literally I never walked it. I never met the seller. I never met the buyer. Literally, we did contracts via DocuSign, and the whole deal just came together. And now fast forward, we're just replicating this on hyper speed over and over and over again. Okay. The last thing I'm going to leave you with is this before I take questions. Okay. In avoiding the profit pits, one of the biggest profit pits that I see people make is that they'll do the work to like generate leads, or they'll buy leads, or whatever they do to get leads. I prefer social media. That's my bias. I just know in my heart it's the right place for people to go to get sellers to come to you. But the biggest profit pit that I see people making today is that when that lead comes in, they do not know how to treat that seller the right way. They don't. It works like this, like literally, that seller has probably owned that property for the last 12 years. How many mortgage payments has that seller made on that property? For 12 years straight, 12 payments a year. They've paid the majority of all the money that they've had that's been spare, excess above like living costs, has gone into that property for the last 12 years. That seller, by the way, they got a kid in college. That seller, by the way, they got to move to a new property. So although sometimes we're sitting there and we're saying to ourselves, like, gosh, I really wish like this seller would just like give me their property for a low price. Or I really wish the seller, you know, like they just seller finance the whole thing to me. I've got the perfect renter for it, like bing, bang, boom. We got to stop up. We got to stop for a second. We got to realize that that kid in college needs a little bit of money, that the move that they're going to make requires some cash. And the way that we do this is we first have to recognize it, and we have to let the pressure out of the room. Think of it like this, okay? They're going to have the pressure. They're going to be on defense. They're going to have that negotiation shield up. To get that negotiation shield down, this is what I do. I think of it like the steam engine train. The steam engine train, it's powered because they take coal, they shovel it into a furnace, they boil water, it produces steam, the steam goes through these pipes. There's 18,000 pounds of pressure going through those pipes. The pipes then put the pressure down to the wheel on the track, and it gets that wheel spinning, and that's how the train is moving down the track, okay? Now, to make all that stuff happen, you'd think with 18,000 pounds of pressure going through the pipes, you'd think there would be some pipe explosions from time to time, but there's not. And it's because of this little valve the engineers put in called a safety relief valve. Every single time that there's too much pressure, it goes, it lets the pressure out. So there's no explosions. I need you, when you're sitting with that seller, to have that pressure relief valve, to know that they're going through stress, to know that even though they won't say it to you, they have pressure on their shoulders. They'll never tell you. They'll never say it. Rarely, at least. Rarely will they tell you. But when you go there and you just let the pressure out of the room, the conversation is night and day difference. I don't care if it's on the phone. I don't care if it's via text message, messenger from Facebook, or snail mail. I don't care. You have to let the pressure out. With the seller yesterday, the one with the 10 unit, in the very first part of the call, or not the call, but the actual sit down meeting, the very first sit down part of the meeting, this is the first time that I actually got to talk to the seller. Before that, his son was involved back and forth and whatnot. I get to talk to the actual seller. The very first thing that I did not jump in and start talking numbers and try to like negotiate and things like that. No. I started talking about our cars. We had a similar type of car. Started talking about cars. And then I said, hey, if this works, awesome. If it doesn't, that's totally cool too. Like at the end of the day, like what our interest here is that not only do we do these units, like these 10 units, but we'd also like to talk about the other units that you have. And then all of a sudden it just opened up this whole conversation. It led to truly what I think will become a friendship. I really do. I think that after we show this seller that we're going to close out this 10 unit and we're going to do what we said we're going to do, I think it will open up a whole big universe, a good friendship. Watch. And that's what I want you to have. I want you to have that with sellers. You get that and this business gets so much easier. Okay. I'm going to open it up for questions here now. I also want to open it up for this. If you are at a spot in your business and you're like, holy cow, Nate, like I want some of what your team has going on. I want to get 18 contracts signed in a week. Or Nate, I want to get help getting sellers to come to me. Or Nate, hey, I'd like you to help me with these words so that I can get sellers to respond that way to me. It starts with this. It starts with you booking a call with our team. You can literally do that at socialmediawithnate.com. I'll blow that up nice and big. It's socialmediawithnate.com. Here's what happens on that call, okay? There's nothing for sale, literally. I don't want $1 from you or from anyone. God's put me in a spot in life now where I feel very, very blessed. I don't need to take money from people. Do we get paid for what we do? If someone says, hey, I want to work with you. Yes, we absolutely do. We do run a for-profit business. We do. But when we do this first call with someone, we go in there, we do an audit. We figure out where you're at. We figure out where you're trying to get. And then ultimately, if you're in a spot where we can help you and you want our help, you tell us, hey, I want your help. And then we can talk about what we could do for you. But in the beginning, it's an audit and giving you a game plan so that you know what you can go out there and tackle. You know you've got the right clarity and the vision to actually take a step forward in your business for you. Okay. So if you want that kind of help, then go to socialmediawithnate.com. You can book a call there. I'm also going to be opening up for questions right now. So if you've got a question, now is your chance. Fire away. Fire away. And Tom is saying, I can't find the crime map on Trulia yet. Tom, you can actually hit us up internally on that, on our messenger chat, because obviously we work with you already. You're already a client. So just hit us up on Messenger and we'll pop that in the link for you. But it's literally after you go and find an address on Trulia, you go down to the bottom right-hand corner and you'll find one. It's right next to the school's icon. You click on crime and that'll take you to it. But we can walk you through that more one-on-one too. Okay. Amen, Nate. Can I get a replay? It's here for a little bit. I think they take this down in like 2 or 3 days. It's usually what happens. So then, they can get me to come back out again next week and play again all over again. Different topic though next week. So anyways, but they leave it up for a few days and then it comes down. That's how they go. Go Hit Team. Awesome. Yes. Go Hit Team. So what that means, that's an insider thing, but we've got Home Invest, the Home Invest team. So we open that up for some of our clients and whatnot, but it's this cool movement that's happening. Like this is something that I've rarely, aside from my boys and my marriage and like God, what I feel most proud about right now is this hit movement that's happening. It's literally like the way that we're bringing in sellers, the way that we're treating sellers, and the way that we're doing it, not just internally here, but with our clients that we're working with. We got a movement happening right now. Just watch. Sellers in the real estate industry as a whole, they're tired of the lowball cash offer. They are. If they wanted a lowball cash offer, they would just go to Zillow.com or OfferPad.com or opendoor.com and they'd get a cash offer emailed to them. They don't want that anymore. What they want now is you and I. They want authenticity. They want someone that's willing to sit across the table with them and shoot them straight, treat them fair, treat them like you'd want someone to treat your own mom if your mom was selling her property by herself. And when you do it that way, from that level of service, that point of service, the profits come. They do. They just do. You just got to take care of people first. So that's what the HIT movement's all about. Okay. So yeah, go HIT team. I love it. All right. I think I've nailed the questions, at least on this platform. I'm sorry, my scope is a little bit limited. It might be in a different spot that you got a question, but we'll pick it up by tomorrow for sure anyways. And then those of you that requested the script, we'll hit you up with that too. But if you want help, the real thing is like actually jumping on a call, 15, 20-minute call. Let's figure out where you're at. Let's get a game plan together for you so that you can actually get to the spot that you wanted to get this year. Okay. Socialmediawithnate.com. All right, that's all for tonight. Thank you. God bless. We'll catch you guys later. Bye-bye.